So remember I assigned those short answer questions? Everybody remember that? So there are, so remember short answer question, each question has 3 parts. Each part is a 3-sentence short ID. You do not need topic sentence. Just have to explain what it is, give an example, and what it led to. The effect, AKA why it's important. And make sure there's specific events, things that happen. So a lot of it will be from the notes, a lot of it, but you can also check your textbook, or the review book has some things you need to remind yourself. They're handy books. And I also want you to just look at those multiple choice, just to start getting used to the way they ask questions. As you know, standardized tests are always a little vague. They're weird. I mean, they just got to get used to it. And we get closer to the test, especially when I know I'll start giving you more of that. We'll get practice tests. Just get used to doing it. But everything's still in the air because who knows what the actual test will be. They decided last year, it was like the middle of February when they really came up with what they were going to do. So I think we still got a couple weeks.
It takes the college board forever.
What?
It takes the college board forever.
Yeah, it really does. And yeah, there's a lot of cooks in that kitchen. And we talked about all the way the business helped or get up there. And on that note, goodbye.
That's further than he's.
Somebody would complain. Assassin. We have to work on that. Okay, one time. We'll try it one time, all right? I'm a stranger. Let's see if we can do this. Okay. Assassin. Act like you mean it. There could be a knife in my back. All right. We'll try it again down the road. It's especially fun when like a freshman comes in and they totally panic. Okay, that's what we call cruel. Oh, and if it's administrator, what do we do? Hide it. Very good. Okay. And I hope so. But they never come down. That's the problem with me. Just I've been around so long. Yeah, I hate partners.
In the back all the way from every
It's a long ways down here. But that's why I like it down here. No one bugs me. So remember something. Someday you too will be. Who are you? Okay. So I talked about the way government helped business, and then also about, we mentioned Frederick Taylor, right? And the scientific management, and the whole thing about economies of scale. Did we mention the assembly line?
Yeah.
And economies of scale, you can really see how the price per Ford dropped dramatically. But they can still make money because with the assembly line and standardization, they push the cost down. If the cost goes down, the bigger you are, the lower your cost generally, and therefore you can drop your price and still make a marginal profit. Big have a huge advantage. Volume and efficiency. And that's why Walmart would become a model of efficiency 30 years ago. Not as much anymore.
Now they actually pay them.
No, they actually don't pay them. They pay them slightly more. They pay them slightly more, but yeah. Their big issue is that they're getting squeezed, and so they're cutting back on their efficiency. Yes.
Do you think it's not like efficient rather than Amazon?
What is? Amazon? There's a lot of relative, very efficient companies. But it all depends. What do you mean by efficiency? Efficiency doesn't necessarily mean it's good. But Amazon is very efficient. But Amazon also operates like a monopoly and destroys other businesses. And
they started raising their prices.
That's what monopolies do. I mean, look at Netflix. Netflix just raised their price. Why? That's what monopolies do. They get people to buy it and then they raise their prices. Or they give you poor service. I'm not directly talking about Microsoft, but I am right now. Moving on. So that's the assembly line. Oh, one more thing. Have you ever seen a graph like this? Did I show you this yesterday?
No.
A chart like this. Frederick Taylor invented this. And the modern organization for a company, where the idea would be leading stockholders, and then you ever heard of CEO? What's that mean?
Chief Executive Officer.
Yeah, Chief Executive Officer. A person that the biggest stockholders, called the board of trustees or the board of directors, they pick them to manage the money, manage the operation. They might know nothing about the actual product they're making, but they know how to organize all the different parts. And then the hierarchy all the way down. So this is a much more efficient design, but it's also, there's going to be many layers from the owners down to the actual workers. Yeah. And it's like that. And the other thing is that means that the workers are going to become less and less important to the owners. You know, if you're working a small business, you know, there's one or two employees and then the person running it, you know each other. You know, the owner has a vested interest. They want to help you. It changes things. But when you're just a number working in a big company, you're just a number making them money. And they can fire you or how they treat you. It's kind of irrelevant to them. He's the guy did on scientific management. So he's the guy who wrote a book about all this ways to make companies more efficient. So moving on. Next. And so what we have then, let's jump right to this. We have the era of big business. And when is the era of big business ended? Actually, it went away for a while. During the Roosevelt administration until the end of the Carter into the Reagan administration, they aggressively tried to stamp down big businesses. That's completely gone now. Completely gone. But this is a time of cutthroat competition. Because the point is, if you're trying to undercut your competitor to make as much money as possible, they're doing the same to you. Don't forget this, they're doing exactly the same to you. And this interaction is dangerous because if you start a business, you borrow money off that business and it goes under, you take all the loss. This is big. Yes, you get the profit, but you get the loss. And so one thing underlying everything is risk. There's risk in everything. And what do you want to do? Don't you just want to make money without risk? If you start a business, that's what you want. Sure, it might be nice you start a business because you like to cook and you want to sell food, but let's get right down to it. You want to make money without risk. That is it, what goal. And so how do you get rid of the risk? Well, cut your costs. Does that make sense? If you cut your costs, as we mentioned, that's why this efficiency thing became so big. You cut your costs, you can undercut your competitors. But what are they doing? The same thing. And here's one thing. If you're in competition with a bunch of different other companies, you can't cut labor costs, really. I mean, you might be able to get more efficient and produce more, like with an assembly line. But you can't just pay your workers less. Because if you pay your workers less, and they'll do what? Yeah, they'll get hired by their competitors, and they'll take all they know about your company, what they learned there, and you're now at a disadvantage. By the way, if you're the only company, you have to worry about such things? No. I wonder what that's going to do to the wages. Yes?
Is that why the
Yeah, that's why Costco pays a little bit more. And that's why Walmart, for example, had to raise wages because they paid so low. Their companies were being, their workers were being, taken away. But it's not happening now. They're not raising wages now.
Who's this name?
We'll get to that. Yeah. So all you can do is get more efficient. Get more efficient. Cut costs. Of course, then again, one way you cut costs and become more efficient is just produce garbage, right? And you might think, wait a second, you produce garbage, won't your competitors drive you out of business? Yeah, not if you drive them out first. And then they're stuck with your garbage. Walmart has a lot of cheap stuff, don't they? And that's, why? That's cutting costs. So, if we're all doing the same thing, what's the best way then? Get big. Economies of scale. The bigger you get, the competitive advantage you have. Then you become more efficient, your costs drop. The problem is, when you get big, isn't there more risk? The bigger you get, the more risk. By the way, I gotta make sure I'm recording this.
It looks like my man literally looks like.
So, this is John D. Rockefeller of Standard Oil. And they would have so many cartoons of him because what would he do? Scoop up his competitors to get big. And so they drew him like here, a giant snake. Some kind of creature is what they would always draw the corporations as they scooped up all their competitors. So, what they really want? Something like a monopoly. If we can create something like a monopoly, we get rid of the risk, and that means we got to get big. And by the way, I think you probably just saw the big problem of capitalism. It's such a massive investment risk to get the capital that to keep that and make money, you want to get bigger and bigger and bigger till you create a monopoly, and therefore get rid of the market, and therefore get rid of capitalism. Capitalism has the problem that wants to eat itself because there's so much risk in getting the capital. That's why there's so many panics. That's why there's so many economic problems, and it's endemic in capitalism. And yes, it can be controlled, but in the process of getting big, people get really rich. Most people can't, but some people can. So with that, every system has flaws out there. So what is a way to get big, avoid the risk, spread out the risk? If they could find a new kind of business that spreads the risk out, you're on the right track. Buy stocks in a what? A corporation. A corporation is was a new type of company. And okay, remember joint stock companies? Investors would pay for things like the London Company of Virginia that started Jamestown, or the East India Company. Remember the Tea Act and all that. But those are just investors. They're just part owners in a company. Corporations are a different thing. Corporations that the United States would adopt started in, of course, Belgium, in the brand new country of Belgium in 1830, as a way to promote business. And it is a legal entity, and I can't emphasize that enough. Now, you start a business, it's a legal entity. A partnership is a legal entity. A corporation is a legal entity. This is created by laws, therefore created by legislatures, created by politics. These are political entities. Created by politics, therefore created by people who win elections. So if you say, I don't like politics and it's just about winning elections, no, that's where the rules are made. And if you don't pay attention, the people who do will make the rules probably not in your favor. Remember we talked about the marriage between business and government? Creating the corporation is a big deal. So you have to go through an entire process. Every state in the United States, for example, has different rules. Every country has different rules for corporations. But corporations have such big advantages. First off, this legal entity that you cannot grow a corporation. It's not natural. Who owns a corporation?
Big money people.
Well, that's what probably going to be, because it has to be people who have enough money to spare. Shareholders, stockholders, they own the company. They own a piece of the stock, a share or a stock. And companies, when they incorporate, they go through a process and they make an initial stock offering. And this actually is done through an investment bank. It's a whole process now. And they sell a certain number of stock. And so if I was starting Partners Incorporated, which I know you all want to invest, trust me, we'll make money. We make change. But you give me money, or you buy the stock, and then I get, so let's say all of you bought $100 in Partners Inc. Which I'd say 1,000. Well, come on. You're rolling in money. And we make change. That's all we do. But all of you give me $100, and then I use that as investment money to start the company.
Does it have to be a company that like makes a certain product?
No. It could be a law firm. It could be a farm. It could be anything. There's different types of designations for corporations, but they cost a lot more than starting a business or a partnership. It's a lot more expensive for a corporation. So you gotta have a lot of money to start with. But there's huge advantages.
Assassin.
Yeah, okay. See? Trying to save my life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like that.
By the way, that was just, and she's up there, never deliver a pass of that crazy. All right. So, still, I want to hear you down the hall. Okay, so back to this.
I don't really have an
The poor lunch ladies.
Well, no, we don't, no, we don't mess with them.
angle.
They're nice.
They're allies.
We know them. They're good. Okay, so buy the stock, and by the way, then, you can then hold on to your stock or sell it, can't you? And you sell it, that's what a stock market is, where people go buy and sell stock. I don't necessarily get any more money off of that, unless I buy more stock. But then again, if my stock value goes up, I can sell more stock. And so then make more money. But, why do people buy stock? Yes. Well, we don't have time to go into all the details of shorting the stock market. Which, but the whole thing about it was that all these people started buying the stock at the same time, so the value went. But we're not going to go into shorting a stock right now.
Aren't they about to short like silver stock?
Huh?
Aren't they about to short this silver stock?
Silver stock?
Yeah, like silver coins.
Oh, but that's a different thing. So back to this. So, have the stock, and then the great advantage for you is, if you want to invest in Partridge Inc., you don't need to spend that much money. You can just invest a little bit, and if I make money, you make money. You can also invest in competitors to Partridge Inc., which McHellish Inc. Did with Partridge Inc. But no, could you invest in other competitors? And therefore, if I go under, you still make money because you hedged your bet with different investors. That's a great advantage for you. And the other advantage is this: starting a business is really hard and scary. Wouldn't it be easier just to make little investments? You don't have to worry about the actual running of the company. You see the advantages. And then what do you get in return?
People like full jobs would just be like.
Some people do that. Some people just sit on the couch all day and just trade stock.
But it's very few, because to buy and sell stock, well, let's get to it right now, because this was fun. There's two things you get from a stock if you buy it. You either get a dividend or use it for speculation. A dividend is the percentage of the profit. So let's say you own 10% of Partridge Inc., you get 10% of the profit of Partridge Inc. Yeah. But I'll give you an opportunity to use that money and recycle it back into Partridge Inc. I'm here for you.
What's the dividend?
Huh?
What's the dividend?
Dividend is a percent of the profit. And so if you own 1% of the stock, you get 1% of the profit. Speculation is the other way. And that is speculation is when you buy stock when the price is low, the most generic way, we've talked about this before with land, and sell it when the price goes up. That's speculation. So there are two different ways to do that. And so there are a lot of people trying to speculate in the stock market. The problem with this is you need excess money to do this. And if you don't have enough money to survive beyond speculation, you starve. So this is a game for people that usually have to have a lot of wealth. And most people who borrow money and try to do this lose their shirts. Especially since the day traders and those kind of things like Robinhood or E-Trade, it's a scam. And I can tell you about a thing called money markers and stock options, but they get you coming and going. Let's just put it that way. I mean, you might make a little bit, but they skim a lot of money off the top. That's my advice to you. If you do that, be very, very careful. Does anyone do that here? Calvin's not here. He's off banned in the stock market now.
I don't think he did.
No, because most people I know who do that are like, ooh, you're okay. But then who runs the company? Therefore, the owners are the stockholders. The leading stockholders were originally called the board of trustees, but now you've heard of board of directors. That's what they're called today. Trustees are going to have bad connotation, and they'll pick that CEO, that person to run the company. So we just talked about the CEO. They pick them. And what is the job of the CEO? Make money for the stockholders. which is running the company. It could be about making a good product. It could be just by borrowing a bunch of money and hey, let's make it look like we're making money.
Hey.
Would that ever happen?
No.
All the time, but not now, thankfully. Thankfully, never now. Yeah, there's all kinds of, and that's why you have stock, manipulating the stock with various funds and bank loans, all this stuff to make it appear like you're making more money. Because if it appears like you're making more money, the stock value goes up. Does that make sense to everybody? Because if the company's making money, people want it. And what if they kind of mislead? Like create another company to put all your losses in. Yes, people do that all the time. So, out of this then, you get the big thing though. Why this entity is so important, I've already hinted at it, but it's called limited liability. And this affects for the stockholders, but also for the people running the company. So if you're the CEO or whatever, it's great advantage. So underline this, put it in asterisks, block letters, italicize it, underline, square. This is such a big deal. In fact, if you ever looked at a corporate logo, have you ever noticed the letters LLC? Limited Liability Corporation. And the great thing about this legal entity is different than other companies. If you own your own business, you borrow money for that business, which all businesses need to borrow money. All of them. Even if they make money, they got to borrow money. Because there might be one day you don't have money. You have to pay for your day-to-day operations. And then you make money the next day to pay it back. Everyone get what I mean by that? Big corporations borrow billions of dollars every day. Borrow it in the morning, pay it back at night. It's called the paper market. And it just happens, we don't even know about it. It's actually kind of scary, all that money transfer, we have no idea. What do we have for lunch today?
Corn dogs, pizza.
Ooh, corn dogs and pizza. Oh, can we get one after lunch?
One, that's it.
Did anybody? Two?
Corn dog or pizza? Pizza? Pizza, so 2 extra pizzas?
Thank you very much. Yeah, we can.
Ally.
Ooh, and tater tots. Oh, the corn dogs. What kind of pizza?
Sausage.
And beef. Yeah, just on the meat. All right, so where were we talking about? Oh, limited liability. And so here's the great advantage of limited liability. You're all liable, you all invested in Partridge Incorporated, which by the way, good investment, double your investment. I'm here for you. If I go out of business, which is we all know is impossible, triple your investment, but if I go out of business, and let's say I borrowed money to expand the, Partridge Town and Partridge Works and, okay, what I really did is just pocketed it right away, but I borrowed all this money, I have all these debts. You're not liable for that. You're only liable for how much? Yeah, the $100 you put in and the amount of stock. Now, if you use that stock to borrow money, you might be liable for more, but you're only liable for that amount. What a great advantage, isn't it? So all the debts that Partridge Inc. Incorporated, who's liable for the debts? The entity. The CEO is not liable. It's the entity.
So you don't lose anything?
Technically, no.
Only the stuff that you put in.
Yeah, only, now, let's say if I was the CEO of Partridge Inc. too, and I bought a bunch of stock, then I'd be out that. But I'm not liable for the debts.
So you can start another business for free.
Exactly, or you have to do the same process again. Yeah, I wonder if that's ever happened. All the time. Do you see the advantage? So therefore, doesn't it allow you to make different changes? If it's your money, you're going to kind of hold that close to your vest, aren't you? You're going to be really worried. Here, woohoo, let's go. And there's something else. Let's say Partridge Inc. commits crime, which I never would happen, but just imagine it committed a crime. Who's liable? The entity. If I walk down the street with a sledgehammer, and I find somebody I don't like and start beating them with the sledgehammer, what's going to happen to me? But if Partridge Inc. hurts somebody, even kills them, who do you have?
The entity.
The entity. It's really hard to arrest individuals. Corporations can get away with a lot. So it might even encourage you to violate the law. Well, have you ever heard of what Remington did with a rifle? They just had a bad habit of shooting on its own. It killed many people, including a number in Montana. And they just kept making it. Why? Making money. You ever heard of a car called the Pinto?
Yeah.
Ford Pinto?
Yeah.
Where if your rear ended it, just tapped the rear bumper, it exploded in flame.
Whoa.
It was a flaw in the gas tank. It would have cost about $20 to fix, but since they had the production line going, they didn't want to change it. Hundreds of people would be roasted alive. I mean, I can't even imagine the hell of that. And what did they decide? I mean, they're killing people. Oops. Yeah. Making money. We could go on and on and on.
Is that still true today?
Companies do that?
No, that like you can't arrest anybody?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was a little bit. It was actually easier to hold people accountable up to the 1980s, but since deregulation and more conservative governments, oh yeah. The banking industry basically committed fraud, destroyed much of the world's economy in 2008. Nobody was arrested. Oh yeah, Teflon pants, and they knew that was incredibly carcinogenic. Woohoo, we're making money. Oh, think about Boeing and that 737 Max. They killed 500 people. They knew that thing was not ready to fly. They knew it. They hid it from people. Think anybody was arrested?
No.
Hell no.
And if you try to sue, we have the best lawyers money can buy.
And it's really hard. They always say, we don't want lawsuits. Trust me, they got them. Yeah, you're exactly right. So the point is, do you see the advantage? But it's easy to find the bad things for good reason. But think about the good things now. It's other people's money. So we get this concept of you can get rich, you can't lose. Won't that encourage you to potentially take risks that you would never take before? Think about it this way: with other people's money, you might take risks in about certain innovations or inventions that nobody would ever invest in. But think of the great advantage. Since it's other people's money, you might invest in an invention that could literally change the world. But if it's your own money, you'd be like, oh, I don't know, that's too risky. It encourages innovation. And arguably, that's a good thing.
Well, you mean like the people that are starting new business?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Since of limited liability, I'll take more risks.
Yeah.
But also, they can just do blatant profit taking, where they borrow a bunch of money and give themselves a raise. Because if you run a corporation, you're a CEO or one of the high-level management figures, and you borrow a bunch of money and give yourself a raise and the corporation goes under, you still have the money. And so one of the things about business that happens, a lot of people think of business and they always think of like a private little business where you start a little shop or making goods. That's not the way almost all business is done. It's done by corporations. And there could be things that people involved in this corporation do that are illegal or stupid in the long run might hurt the corporation, but they still make money. Corporation goes under, they still have their money. Yeah.
They make a corporation.
Huh?
You're saying like they can start a little business of like a little shop that's not a corporation.
Well, no, what I mean is like a lot of people think business is just like a little shop. And so they just can't imagine companies would ever do things like just blatant profit taking. That's what people think. So it's different than a corporation, which is a massive business. You see that a lot, like nobody would ever do what the banks did because they'd lose money and the bank might go under. It's other people's money. Roll the die, let's go. Now, it doesn't make it bad. It doesn't mean this is not a value judgment right here, but have you ever heard of a store called Toys R Us?
Yeah.
It's gone now. It was involved by these corporate raiders called private equity. And what they did is they borrowed a bunch of money, bought Toys R Us, this company, and they're huge. There's a huge Toys R Us in Billings and one in Missoula, but now it's just a big empty building. I guess I don't know if something went into the one in Billings.
I don't think, not yet.
The one in Billings is huge.
It's massive.
I cried when I
Toys
went.
R Us.
It would show off.
So
I was
fun.
like, hey.
So, Toys R, what did they do? They borrowed a bunch of money, bought controlling shares of stock, in Toys R Us. And then what they do with all that debt, they transferred it to Toys R Us. And then what do they do then? And then they paid themselves massive raises. So evil, but smart. And what it is, it's a loophole in the law. And they take advantage of the loophole. And then so they basically, think about it this way. They bought Toys R Us, gouged all the wealth out of Toys R Us, and left a ruined house that went out of business. The same thing happened to Sears. Sears used to be massive, and they literally, that's what happened to Sears. Which now we have a little tiny, I mean, it's just a shadow. It's unreal. A lot of companies that happen a lot. It's actually, it's a big issue that's happening to private hospitals right now. These companies are coming in and rolling into private hospitals. Which is kind of scary, since I tend to someday, I know since I'm getting old, looking at my wrist here, I'm probably going to need healthcare. But another new industry started, the finance industry through investment banks. And they're the ones who loan money, start stocks, do all that. Investment banks. So, with that, a new entity is created. But here's the problem. These can get really big. The United States, which now more and more, by the ATA, is calling itself a democracy. Oh, almost forgot. Corporation thing can get really, really big. That's the big thing.
What does it mean by consolidate?
Scoop up like a scoop up, consolidate.
Oh, all together, big. Like it in college.
By the way, if you get more and more big, that means wealth focuses in just the hands
That
of a
what
few.
they do on Shark Tank?
That's one of the things.
That's more just individual people trying to sell an invention
But
to a
that's
company.
how they get really rich.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yep. So, democracies in general, and this is a relatively new thing. Now, the United States is not technically a democracy. We talked about that, but more and more we think of ourselves, we want to be. No, we've never achieved that. I told you there's no right to vote in this country. I've already talked about that. But they fear concentrated wealth. And this goes back to the foundation of the United States. Remember the Tea Act and the Boston Tea Party? That wasn't an attack on taxes. That was a tax on the monopoly of the East India Company. The thought of monopolies, all the power in the hands of a few, can control the entire state. And so all these states were feared that wealthy would control politics. And government of the wealthy is called a plutocracy. And that's what they feared, where wealthy interests will control everything for themselves. And yes, that is a problem today. It really depends on your point of view, how dangerous this is or where we're at in a plutocracy. Are we close to a plutocracy? They call it a plutomany. I know, whatever. But states limited to sizes. And what they said is corporations can't own other corporations. And what do businesses do? They want monopolies. Let's get loopholes. So here we have the competing argument. States, corporations can't own. Companies, we want monopolies. I wonder where this is going to go. By the way, lots of monopolies from this time, drawn as fat, kind of, like because of all their wealth. That was the goal. And there is a poor worker. So the goal, more monopolies, find loopholes in the law. Find ways they can get around these laws until we can change the laws. Would they change the laws? Oh yeah. So let me get to a couple of these loopholes. You ready?
Wait, so what is a plutocracy?
Government by the wealthy. So instead of a democracy, a plutocrat is a wealthy person. Like I don't mean I mean super wealthy. Like the top 0.001%. Okay. Like a plutocrat would be like Jeff Bezos.
That could be us.
Yeah. If you join Partridge Inc., you too could be a plute. And what do plutes do? Plute. So with that, the first one is called a pool. And a pool is an illegal operation where companies get together and they set a price floor. What is a price floor? All the competitors agree we won't charge underneath this amount. And one of the first major pools in the new corporate world would be the first subways in New York, were private companies, and they all agreed they wouldn't undercut each other. So that means all the companies can profit.
And this is illegal?
Very illegal. It's price fixing, so it's fraud by definition in every state in the union to this day.
Wait.
So they can't sell under the
Yeah.
price.
But they all secretly agree. So we all make money. So we won't undercut each other.
Why is that? Just because it kind of takes away from market.
Yeah, so it's fraud. So you're committing fraud on the customer. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Without being, that is the definition of fraud.
How?
Huh? Because you're not allowing the customer to compete in an open market.
Because everyone charges the same price and the customer can't go to another business and get a cheaper product.
So they fix the price, they're gouging.
Yeah, so there's no more free.
Yeah,
Wouldn't there be one, so backstab everyone and go on?
that's why it's weak. Because it's illegal. All it takes is one company to undercut the others, and what happens? It's nothing. What are you supposed to say? Hey, you broke our illegal deal. By the way, most organized crime is a pool. And then, of course, when they break a deal, that's when they have wars. Yeah, they're all pools. And remember, the big mob wars? We did a unit in special topics about gangsters in America. And the big wars were always because somebody violated their illegal agreement, sell illegal stuff. Next, a trust. And a trust is an illegal operation, but it has the veneer of legality. Smaller companies turn their stocks over to one board of trustees. By the way, who owns the board of trustees? The bigger company, like Standard Oil.
So, instead of board of trustees was basically CEO, so.
No, they pick the seat.
Oh.
They're the biggest stockholders. But what happened, and this became such a big deal, the word trust became synonymous with monopoly. That's why laws that limit monopolies in the US are called antitrust, and that's why they don't make sense anymore. Because the trusts are now gone. That's an 1880s, 1890s thing. The best example would be Standard Oil, John Rockefeller's. And Rockefeller's, he would scoop up everything from banks to railroads and smaller oil companies. And he would go to them and say, you join the trust. So I take over your company even though you're still technically independent. But if you don't, I will destroy you through federal competition. And he didn't mean just like drive you out of business. He meant undercut you so you go out of business, make sure no banks will loan you money, make sure you lose your home, make sure you lose everything you have, destroy you. So what are you going to do?
Terrorist attack.
Yeah, of course you'd say, take it on, take it on. Yeah, and he would.
So how does he make it? Or like, what is turnover stocks to the board of trustees? Can you explain that again?
Basically, just you turn over the control of your stocks to a board of trustees, one board of trustees.
So the smaller companies give control of their company.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that, since they call the board of trustees, that's where you get the term trust. So technically, they're still independent, but.
It's someone else's blame.
And then, what's the next step to this? Oh, JP Morgan. Oh, we got to get to this real quick. Vertical and horizontal. Vertical trust or integration, whatever you want to call it, would be one of the most common ways. And here's all the means of production. So let's say you're making meat in those meat corn dogs. Meat. In vertical, you control everything from the cow ranch to the slaughterhouse, the feedlot, all the way up to the sales. Horizontal integration, when we think of monopolies, we think of horizontal. Horizontal is all the alike industries. For example, like you own all the oil companies. We think of monopoly, we think like all the alike industries. Those are the differences. And so when you start combining these companies, that's called a combination or consolidation. A few more things, and by the way, haven't I just told you a lot of why things are the way they are now? We're coming to it. And if you look around, isn't it amazing how powerful corporations are going to become? I mean, look at the people who are actually went out and paid money to advertise for a corporation. Yeah, right there. You paid money to advertise for a company. That gives you an idea of their power. What's on your shirt? Rocky Mountain National Park. Okay, that's Nike though. We got the Screws, we got that Clemson. Colleges are all. They Fanta. See you tomorrow. All right, they're online, you know. Oh, here we go. There's corporation. We got a flag.
Yeah, go Tigers.
Colleges are money-making entities now. That's all they are.
Oh, no, I was example one. I
Guess
just
what?
think it's just like,
I
sure,
dropped
you'll give me your stocks, you're